When a year and 2 weeks ago I became a Vilnius mayor, I was invited to speak at Login conference. That was a big honor for me. Also to present what's going to happen in Vilnius in the coming years, how we will make Vilnius more friendly to startup community, to innovation, and there were some aspects I was touching back then, and I will come back to those. We'll tell you what's happening in Vilnius today, what's going to happen during the next period. But first of all, I would like to tell you something about Vilnius, which maybe you don't know, even those who live in Vilnius. Because we Lithuanians very often tend to think that something good is happening in other places, and tend to think that what's happening in the neighborhood, we don't even notice that. And Vilnius is big enough actually to get lost and to lose some ideas. Our goal, I was just recently presenting our tech map, just to, again, our open code initiative to collect all the data about startups ecosystem to get oriented better around Vilnius. But yes, speaking about Vilnius, what's the competitive Vilnius environment is? And there are two aspects. One is like kind of genetic, kind of what Vilnius actually is, and another is like created, how we people do change our institutional systems, our framework to be more competitive. My initial goal was again to make Vilnius as the most competitive city in the northern part of Europe, and it still is the goal. And it's very important to understand what is our competitive what are our competitive advantages and what are not, and to build our capacities on the things that are realistic and not artificial. Let's start with the thing that we are a very young city. In the northern part of Europe, we are second youngest city after Copenhagen. Some people even do not understand that Vilnius actually is already the biggest Baltic city. In some aspects, some people still think that Riga is the biggest Baltic city, but when you calculate how many young people do we have, people below 35, we are bigger in absolute terms, and that leads also to demography, that we will become bigger in absolute terms for all age groups as well. And that's one of the reasons why there are more startups here in Vilnius, why there are more international companies coming here to invest to Vilnius, why they find more talented people here, because we are young and educated here in Vilnius. And that's what some people do observe, but do not name it very clearly. Yes, we are one of the youngest cities in Europe, and in Northern Europe especially. And that's a big competitive advantage for us. What I would like to add to this genetic advantages is that our institutional framework is very dynamic as well. Even before I raised this idea, this strategic goal that we have to be fast and open, and faster than others, and more open than others, Vilnius was already both open and fast. The spirit in Vilnius was inviting to new ideas, to new technologies. People are hungry for new technologies, and actually we got used to that. It's kind of normal already, but it's not a norm in every city. There are some cities where people got used to the life which they lived like a decade ago. And we have some cities, and quite many cities actually, where people do complain about changes coming. Vilnius is completely different. I mean, people do complain if some change didn't come last year or this year. People do have this expectation that new things will come, and they are rushing to the future. And yes, we are faster than others. I will come back to what we did in Vilnius to foster this, but just to name again some indicators why Vilnius is a good place for innovation and for startups is again lots of international rankings. Just for example, yesterday it was again the kind of new wave of sharing of this data about foreign languages, for example. Yes, Lithuania, no, letter is some kind of mystical, because if you take three countries which speak most international languages in European Union, so first is Luxembourg, second is Lithuania, and the third is Latvia. And there are no other L countries in European Union. And 97% of Lithuanians do speak at least one foreign language. Of course, in Vilnius, the percentage is even higher. I mean, it's difficult to be higher than 97%, but I have, actually, when I thought about it, I understood that I do not know any person who don't speak any, at least some foreign language. It is clear that at least in Vilnius, the majority of people speak at least 2 foreign languages. And again, that is not so typical environment in European cities, at least not in every European city. And when we think about startup ecosystem, about welcoming environment, the idea that the city is international is very important, because the best ideas are born international, born from interaction between different sectors, between different types of people, and between different nationalities. And Vilnius actually was born international. It was always very international, and it still has this feature. And again, what the reflection of this feature, again, I'm jumping to maybe other stage of my presentation, partly, is that we do not hide, and we declare very openly that we as municipality as well, for example, we speak 4 languages. It's when you come to municipality, you're served in Lithuanian, English, Polish, or Russian. So it's no problem for us. I mean, we do it very, very naturally. When speaking about other rankings, or statistics, it was like big honor for me as a mayor to accept 7 prizes from Financial Times Foreign Direct Investment review. 7, that is the biggest number. I mean, I never noticed any other city which got 7 prizes for different aspects which show that Vilnius is a good place for future investment, whatever you take. I mean, the talents, accessibility, the cost efficiency, everything. I mean, everything. Vilnius is, at least in the top 10 in Europe, among this middle-sized cities. And the general ranking is number 3 among medium-sized cities in Europe, after Zurich and Edinburgh, which, okay, I can understand Zurich. I have some doubts about Edinburgh, but I think that we are probably even, or will be very soon, number 1. When speaking about other rankings, again, it's not startup issue, but again, speaking about shared service centers or competence centers, we are number 1 in Central and Eastern Europe, and Central and Eastern Europe is definitely number 1 in terms of Europe and maybe globally for development of these services. And Vilnius is number 1 3 years in a row already for investment in this area. And again, I'm very glad that today in Vilnius we do not have this kind of big dichotomy between startups and corporate investment into product development or into services or into some kind of competence developing centers. Because now it's obvious that those people who work in corporate business, sometimes they get tired of it, they get fed up of it, and they decide to get out of this service into the open market with their own ideas. On the other hand, those people who maybe have tested like maybe 10 times their own ideas in the market as a startups and decided, okay, I failed again. And they are welcomed in the corporate business because they are brave and they exactly need that kind of spirit that you are looking for new ideas, for new things. And what we see, actually, it's not only about ranking, but what is very important when we see the practical things, what are happening in Vilnius. Again, I'm very proud that there are certain areas where we are definitely among the leaders, among the future leaders, if not currently leaders. For example, last week we had this game development law summit in Vilnius. More than 100 participants. Actually, the possibility to participate was closed because it was too many those people willing to participate, and that's the only conference in the world for this particular issue. I mean, when you speak about game development, and it's typically you treat it as an IT business, but of course it has some relations to arts, some relations to legal issues, some relations to other areas, and legal area is very important. And suddenly Vilnius is the center to discuss legal issues of this aspect. Very small, very particular area, but it's a very great area, and it has reflection in the whole market. I have no doubts that some companies who choose to be here in Vilnius, they choose it because of the whole environment, and this is a part of environment. Going even further, when we declare that we are fast and open to new ideas, for example, one of our most famous startups, Ilya Lauris, and one of the venture capital leaders, Mindaugas Glodas, they came to me and say, look, we are really looking into blockchain technology nowadays, about bitcoins and other things, because in many countries and many cities, it's kind of reluctance to accept these ideas. We see in the neighborhood in the east that it's even like forbidden, but we are looking to those areas. So if Vilnius is open, so will you be open to these new ideas to discuss how blockchain technology could be used in financial sector? Because what we also see, that's huge amount of people working in financial sector in Lithuania, especially in the competence centers and service centers, including such big names and good names as NASDAQ, which again is a good achievement for us. And suddenly, after the banking conference, banking meeting in Copenhagen, people who are interested in blockchain technology in financial sector are moving to Vilnius to discuss those issues here in Vilnius. And it's a huge interest in this technology, in this event, and people are looking for opportunities. There are startups who are using this technology already, and I have no doubt that it has a very bright future as well. There are many more rankings and indicators showing that Vilnius is becoming more and more visible in international arena related to startup ecosystem and innovations in certain areas, especially in certain areas, game development, financial technologies, biotechnologies, and then some other issues. So maybe we could switch on. Yes, I promised to tell what we've changed in Vilnius during this one year. I was speaking about open data, about being fast and open, and yes, some things have happened. And I was speaking about open data first of all, from the city which had no open data policy, which had no open data, which have opened some of its data just for 1 week, just for one hackathon in the previous times. Now we have open data policy which is approved, which is clear, and which is implemented on the understanding that this is no compromise area. Of course, we had some discussions in some areas whether we should open this data or not open, because of course there are some aspects. I mean, there are some aspects, starting with intellectual property and ending with the idea that maybe we will be misunderstood if we will publish this kind of data. At the end of the day, in every of these discussions, the result was the same. We opened this data to the public. I mean, some of this data is very important and practical, and startups already are using this data to create new products. And first of all, it's data related to transport or to our financial and property data. But there are also some funny data, just to illustrate that this is no compromise approach. That, for example, meeting minutes of mine are also all open, and then you may check it out what's happening inside. So that was also kind of a discussion whether we should open it or not. So it's open. We do it. Of course, there are some areas when we discuss internal issues which could reflect negatively towards third parties, and there are some 1% which could not be opened. But in general, it's open data with no compromise. And I'm very glad to see that, again, I'm very thankful to Povilas Poderskis, my advisor, who is pushing this very, very hard, and I invited him for this particular purpose, and he's doing it on 110%. And Vilnius is starting to set some standards for Lithuanian cities, because at least 5 Lithuanian cities are following our activities. we are open data city both in this respect that we do not keep those innovations for ourselves. We give it away for everyone. I mean, we do not want to be the only city which has these nice new things implemented. Everyone is invited to follow or to provide something new, and we will follow them if there will be some these occasions. We are becoming faster and faster in terms of what we do. Again, like brand example for this being faster and more open is like the idea of Uber coming to Vilnius. I mean, it was last autumn when I first met some of their like CEO or like development officer. I don't remember the exact title here in Vilnius, and it took less than 4 weeks for them to start actual operations here in Vilnius. And this is a very clear comparison, because if it was the fastest starting of operation ever out of 400 cities they are operating, out of 400 cities. And the second fastest is almost twice as slow as we are. And vice versa. We are almost twice as fast as they are. That's a better way to put it. So we are really open for new ideas. We do not keep traditional businesses as granted when somebody is discussing that maybe we shall regulate this or that. We are always very curious about this. For example, there is a kind of tendency also from smooth, not radical request from national authorities that you should maybe introduce some regulation for drones. We say that no, we are not going to do this in the foreseeable future, because we don't see how we can regulate them at this particular moment, and we think that we shall open this floor for drones to be used. Of course, there are safety and other issues, and we think that it's a huge responsibility for drone users, but in general, we say that the city is more open than others for these things, and for many others as well. We have, of course, many initiatives coming to Vilnius. Just in this slide, we see that car sharing system is developing very fast, and again, it's a Spark system, the like first completely electric with no subsidies, market-based model system was just started in Vilnius, and it's clearly Vilnius again a sandbox for testing those new ideas. We are opening new co-working spaces. Tech Park in Sapiegų is very well known already, and we had this discussion about how to make it more friendly to startup community. But there are others, and our goal is to contribute to other initiatives for them to open those spaces. And we hear about Barclays initiative and others. I'm not allowed to announce those right now, but there are movements in this area. We have speed of our own activities. We started to measure it very clearly, and Vilnius was never so fast in issuing all the kind of permits or like decisions. Sometimes I think is that it's very slow, but it's like my measurement. For example, this building permits, I mean, we were twice as slow as it is required by law. Now we do fit into maximum terms of those requirements required by the law. But of course, my goal is to fit into 1/3 of maximum requirement and to treat it as a normal, and maximum requirement to leave us for very complicated cases. Next slide, if you may. What's ahead of us? This strategy of being fast and open, I think it will be very, very important for the coming decade. And of course, it means that there will be more and more areas where we will have new things presented. I will just name some of them, but of course the list is not closed, because everything depends on the creations in the market. If somebody has a good idea or even bad idea, do not hesitate to test it in Vilnius, to try it in Vilnius. If you see some regulatory obstacles, do not hesitate to come and to tell me about this. Even if those obstacles are not in hands of municipality, I will take this responsibility on myself to talk to some ministry or regulatory agency or some other institution to be ambassador in order to soften this regulation, to be open and to solve all those issues fast. So I treat all those issues as mine, not others, but very particular topics. Some of these are building information modeling, this 3D modeling of buildings. We want to switch to this kind of city planning and architectural design. Driverless cars, I think it's very important for every city, and I'm really looking forward for more active role of Ministry of Transportation to not to be stuck with this simple questions which are treated as a very complicated questions, like who is having a driver's license or who will be responsible in the case of accident. I think these questions are very easy, and again, we as a city are willing to be one of the first to open streets for driverless cars on the large scale, and I think that we will solve these issues with the Minister of Transportation as well. I spoke about drones as well, about testing places, about sandboxes. So in some cases, sandbox, the whole Vilnius is the sandbox. In some cases, some areas will be a sandbox for testing new ideas. Blockchain technology already also mentioned. And just to finish my simple speech with the clear target, I would like to say once again that we here in Vilnius have huge genetical advantages as a city to grow and to be one of the leaders in technology and in startups. And in order to not to be left somewhere behind, we have to have some features. And it is a very clear strategy of Vilnius that we are fast and open. And this is our biggest competitive advantage, besides our young, educated, and brave spirit to be on the top. And I have no doubts that Vilnius will get more and more attention, more and more investment, more and more ideas, more and more people coming to live to Vilnius, and we will be tech city and innovation city very soon. Thank you so much. I'm looking for your questions. Thank you.